Tons of news today, but let's start by clarifying this. I've seen this headline reported differently on different sites, and people in the comments section sometimes misunderstanding it, especially with a less responsibly worded headline, that kind of a thing. So the A770 graphics cards are not toast, the Intel-made ones are. In other words, and there is an update to this story at PC Gamer specifically, all my sources will be in the video description today, saying Intel has officially confirmed to us that it is only discontinuing the Intel-branded Arc A770 LE card. That's the limited edition Intel cooler, which I do think looked really nice and professional and all of that. But it does not mean that A770 16GB cards in general are done, and it says that Intel is still producing silicon for AIBs. For example, the 16GB A770 that I review on my channel is the one I purchased, which is the Acer Predator Bifrost AIB partner card, and that one still should be out there. I really hope, again, everybody seems to be worried Intel's going to leave the GPU competition. I think we all know we need a third player in here to help compete, drive prices down, all of that. Intel also does have a new graphics driver out. I checked to see if this one had any other big performance gains that they've had recently. This one seems to be mostly just bug fixes, though, for the most part. So it doesn't look like any big boost like we saw in the last one for some games. And I do just want to mention, just as contrast, how difficult it is to do the software for a new GPU. Like the Moore Threads GPUs coming out of China are coming out around the same time the Intel Arc GPUs had, trying to break in as a new competitor. But their game support list is incredibly small. Now, they are also making news here with the new driver enabling some more games, like, hey, now it can play Crysis 3 at least. But still, the list of games is very small. So like, instead of like the Intel Arc GPUs where you can probably play most new games and a lot of old games still work, just maybe not super well, and some of them are legitimately broken. In this situation, it's more like if you're not on the small select list of games and even motherboards that are compatible, it just doesn't work at all. So breaking into this is very difficult. Now let's talk about some RTX 4060 benchmarks right after I tell you about today's sponsor. A huge thank you to today's sponsor, NordPass Business. You can see NordPass Business in action now with a 3-month free trial here at nordpass.com/Daniel Owen with code Daniel Owen. What if you could securely share credentials, payment information, and other companies' sensitive data with your colleagues with just one click? How much of your precious time would you get back? You can remove bottlenecks that stall deadlines, share an unlimited number of digital entry points that you can assign to different departments or teams. Members get access to shared credentials, payment information, and other sensitive data immediately. Tons of other benefits. Again, see NordPass Business in action now with a 3-month, I said it again, 3-month free trial here at nordpass.com/Daniel Owen with code Daniel Owen. Pinned comment and link in the video description. You guys know I'm all about efficiency. This is an excellent place to check that out, and who doesn't like getting 3 months free? All right, let's talk RTX 4060 leaks. So we know that Nvidia has officially announced the 4060 is coming out at the end of this month. And so now it's likely out in the hands of some reviewers, and we are seeing the general leaks hitting the internet, all of that. Bench Leaks here on Twitter had some results, and they have been summarized nicely at videocards.com. Again, all my sources will be in the video description. These are Geekbench leaks, so these aren't the greatest thing in the world to judge gaming performance for, but it is at least some way to stack up cards' relative performance. But again, these are not gaming benchmarks. These are Geekbench 6 compute benchmarks. If we look at the Vulkan API score, we do see that the RTX 4060 is slower than an RTX 3060 Ti, and similar but slightly faster in performance to AMD's RX 7600. Now, and we can also see it reaching 82% of the performance of the 4060 Ti. Now, in synthetic benchmarks like this, I think it's most relevant to compare cards within the same, architecture, GPU architecture, like 4060 Ti to the 4060. But guys, this is showing the 4060 slower than the 3060 Ti. which is interesting. We also have some OpenCL numbers. Now, I don't want to go way too far into the deep end with, like I said, compute benchmarks, all of that. But based on this result, they're seeing the RTX 4060 about 17 to 18% faster than the RTX 3060, and again, slower than the 3060 Ti. Now, how does this stack up compared to what we were expecting? Well, we shouldn't actually have any major surprises here, because Nvidia has already announced their expected performance for the RTX 4060. They're expecting it to be 1.2 times the speed, or in other words, 20% faster than the RTX 3060, when you're not using frame generation. Now, they showed their set of games, and this is also using a lot of DLSS and ray tracing, and when they gave a similar set of test data for their 4060 Ti, they claimed a 15% uplift compared to the 3060 Ti, and actually delivered, in most reviewers, including my own, closer to a 10% or so uplift, so a bit lower than what they claimed, when we're looking at just gaming performance, not just these specific titles. So, if this result is showing us, 17 to 18% faster than the 3060, so a few percent less than what Nvidia was claiming in their marketing slide, and this is just, again, on one random compute benchmark, this does fall pretty much into line with what we were expecting, but the question is that good enough? Again, it's coming in here slower. The 4060 not beating the previous generation 60 Ti is certainly not a good look. And is that expected in actual gaming performance? Let me pull up. Now, this chart is not perfect, but it's good for some ballpark figures. This is the Tech PowerUp GPU database. This is just really convenient because you can click on any GPU, set it as your baseline, and look at how other GPUs stack up. But again, if you read too much detail in this, various games, different graphics APIs, I don't think this is updated as drivers change, things like that. This is not going to be 100% perfect. But a ballpark figure of saying the 3060 Ti is about 25% faster than the 3060, when not hampered by the 8 gigabytes of VRAM versus 12, that would actually mean that these results are lining up pretty close to what Nvidia claimed, which actually does put the 4060 similar performance and possibly slower than a 3060 Ti. This is certainly going to be interesting in reviews. What do you guys think about the 4060? The main thing I've got to say about it is I at least like the fact that they aren't hiking the price, and in fact are reducing the price compared to the 3060. So whereas the 3060 came in at $329, the 4060 is coming in at $299. So at least, even though a 20%, if we get it, generational uplift is certainly nothing amazingly exciting, and I think most people would find disappointing. I mean, we at least do have the fact that it is coming in at a lower price point for that. We'll see how it goes. I'm imagining you guys will not be incredibly, just like, I must rush out and buy this new $300 8 gigabyte card that's slower than a 3060 Ti. But at least, again, it will do it with better power consumption and, AV1 encoding, frame generation. So it certainly, has something going for it. When it comes to the 8 gigabyte question, obviously I would like to see 12 gigabytes or more, like the 3060. It certainly feels bad to have that downgrade. I think if the 4060 came in with the $300 price point, so a price cut, 20% more performance with frame generation, better energy efficiency, and it still had 12 gigabytes of VRAM, I think it would be a lot more attractive product. I think a lot of people are going to be like, should you just buy the 3060 with 12 gigabytes for less because it's come down a lot in price on the market? I don't know. I'll have to think about all of this quite a bit as we work on reviews. This will be certainly interesting to compare against the 3060 12 gigabyte in the latest titles to see how much the VRAM buffer is getting in the way. Now, the lower the price point, the less objection I have to 8 gigabytes. $300 though, it's kind of pushing it. AMD's 7600 at least has already been dropping in price to around $250, which is also an 8 gigabyte card and does seem to be projected to offer similar performance, but probably would lose in ray tracing and features and probably energy efficiency and all of that. Anyway, if you're just giving up on the whole PC space and you're like, maybe I should just buy a console, well, I've got some bad news for you. Microsoft is hiking the price of Xbox Series X and Xbox Game Pass. Now, the PlayStation 5 already had some price hikes in various markets, and also this price hike is not happening in every market. The price will remain the same in the United States, but the price is going up in several other markets. It looks like this article at The Verge has it moving up to $479.99 in the UK, $549.99 across most European markets, and $649.99 in Canada. $799.99 in Australia, and these price hikes will hit August 1st. It looks like the Xbox Series S pricing will remain the same, though. And the other thing, again, I keep seeing people say, like, games run terribly on PC, I should just go buy them on play them on a console. Well, guys, remember to have realistic expectations of what a console delivers as well. I'm not saying that at the same price, a console is going to deliver you better performance than what you could build new on a PC. But just notice that new games coming out like Final Fantasy 16, just do notice that if you try to push it into a 60 FPS performance mode, it really won't even hold 60 FPS, and it will drop as low as 720p resolution to do that with just a spatial upscaler. By the way, it's not confirmed, it's FSR1. I think that was the suspicion from the Digital Foundry video that I think this WCCF Tech article is referencing. But again, I'm not saying consoles don't offer better price to performance at their price point than a gaming PC. I think they do. But just a lot of people are saying, like, I could play games at 4K 60 on consoles, and like maybe it's extremely upscaled. So anyway, and doesn't always hit 60 FPS mode. A lot more console games are starting to hit 30 FPS caps as well. Let's see. So in other 4060 related news, we do see some new GPU coolers being announced. We see the RTX 4060 Gaming X and Ventus 2X Black. Coming from MSI. These aren't the highest end coolers, but they do have a nice blackout design. I think they look nice and professional looking. I'm certainly a fan of like one of my main editing PC. I did like a full just blackout, no RGB, just black everything build. Which honestly, like, as nice as the more flashy RGB builds look, sometimes when I'm playing a game and my PC's right there, it's actually distracting to have all the lights and things. I do kind of just like a blacked out build myself a lot of the time, to be honest. In other GPU cooler news, we have Inno3D officially announcing 4070 and 4060 graphics cards with hidden power cables. I do like this design, like this trend in design to offer some kind of innovation on the placement of the power connector on GPUs. So this one goes under a partially removable backplate. Now, could there be some potential lost surface area for cooling here? Sure, maybe, but as long as it does still keep the GPU cool, fine. I think this is nice because then if you needed to route the cables around the front, but you're in a smaller case, this might actually fit into a smaller space, as well as allowing you to hide the power connectors running through the back. Overall, I think it's nice to have these options available. Also, white GPUs are something some people are interested in, and another option available is from Yeston. With their 4060 Ti, a white PCB model. Yeston has some interesting designs. This one looks like almost like the fans have almost like a flower sort of aesthetic, in my opinion. A couple screenshots of this, so if you're looking for this sort of a design for a white build, keep your eye out for that one. And now let's jump into some other stories. So if you are thinking about maybe the RTX 4090 is not expensive or powerful enough for you, maybe you were thinking, hey, I'm a billionaire and want to drop $40,000 on my gaming GPU. Why don't I just buy one of those Hopper H100 GPUs that Nvidia is so excited about? Sure, they're AI accelerators, but they're a supercomputer, basically. I should be able to get some good gaming results. Well, GeekerOne on YouTube has apparently tested this out in gaming, and it's terrible. It is a very bad gaming GPU. It loses against a last generation APU from AMD. It loses to the Radeon 680M. In 3D Mark Time Spy, you get some nice 8 frames per second in Red Dead Redemption 2. So anyway, Just a heads up that if you did have $40,000 to spend on a GPU, you probably shouldn't buy one of the Hopper H100 GPUs for your gaming PC. Interesting that they were even able to get games to run on it at all, in my opinion. In other news, there is now a DLSS 3 plugin for Unreal Engine 5.2, which will make it very easy for game developers to implement DLSS 3 into Unreal Engine 5.2 based games. Speaking of Unreal Engine 5.2, there have been some really graphically demanding and detailed demos available. One of them is a tropical rainforest demo available for download and test, as well as the Old West Northwood demo available as well. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about Unreal Engine. My main thing I'm looking for with Unreal Engine 5 is hopefully the stutter struggle gets better. Shader compilation stutter hopefully is gone. Traversal stutter will hopefully be a lot reduced. I have my doubts whether it will be 100% perfect, but I'm hoping we see a much better situation than we did with Unreal Engine 4. Also with CPU utilization, hopefully better able to use more threads. Those are the kinds of things I'm looking for with Unreal Engine 5. Although the overall graphics it's able to produce with things like Nanite and Lumen are quite impressive, and you can take a look at these demos. So a little bit of motherboard news. So ASRock's Sonic rushes to support next-gen Intel CPUs. So it does look like Intel's 700 series motherboards will be getting updates. Like we're seeing a BIOS update right here for this B760M from Phantom Gaming Sonic series from ASRock, says support for next generation processors. Now, don't get too excited and think that this means that it's going to be like the full entire next generation architecture from Intel that will be supported. This is expected to be more of a refresh of Raptor Lake, which will probably get it some higher clock speeds, maybe some faster memory support, but not the next like full-blown architecture. But it is nice to see that people might have a bit further they could go with the CPUs available if they are on those motherboard platforms. Now, speaking of other motherboard platforms, we have an AMD A620 Mini-ITX form factor coming available here. This one from Gigabyte. I believe this is the first Mini-ITX form factor A620 motherboard, which is at least interesting for people looking to build in this form factor. And it does look like this article has been updated to say that Gigabyte has released full specs of the motherboard. So if you're like, wait, A620, what's the downside there? The downside for A620 is that you don't get the PCIe Gen5. I believe that's the main downside. Also, it doesn't support overclocking CPUs, but I think it does support, like we are getting here, that it does support AMD Expo and Intel XMP memory module support. So you still get the memory overclock. So there are some downsides there, but the price of this should hopefully be pretty reasonable. So there are reasons to consider that. And let's see, jumping on to other news, we have seen a new world record GPU clock speed hit by an RTX 4090, crossing 3.9 gigahertz. Which is interesting. We've never really seen GPUs break the 4 gigahertz record. It looks like that might be a possibility on an RTX 4090. This is the overclocker Sens. And now, do keep in mind, though, that this wasn't being done in an actual 3D gaming workload, so don't be expecting your 4090, and also, again, like, this is extreme overclocking, not the kind of stuff you're going to do on your own PC. It is still interesting that we have seen someone able to do that, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and move on to some handheld gaming PCs. We are seeing another Steam Deck style competitor coming in. This one with a 7840U APU from AMD, 7-inch ultra-thin bezel, 120 Hz refresh rate, 580 grams. An personalized RGB emblem. This is the ONEXFLY coming in from the makers of the what is it called? ONEX Player? Yeah. Anyway, looks interesting. This space seems to be getting a lot more crowded. The latest entrant to actually launch has been the ASUS ROG Ally, which, by the way, I should mention that a few days ago there was a latest firmware tested which is now being advised to not install. Even the company's own representative has suggested do not do this update because, as tested over at Hot Hardware, it reduces gaming performance. It would be really nice if companies would, test a major update to their software, firmware, before throwing it out into the wild and make sure it doesn't actually make their product worse. So anyway, be careful installing that one. And I'll just take this as a side note to talk about this kind of market in general and my thoughts on it. I was very tempted to buy the ROG Ally for a number of reasons. One of them is my main complaint with my Steam Deck, which I do use quite a bit, is the screen. I don't like the screen. It would be nice if for lighter weight titles and when I don't need a long battery life to have the 120 hertz refresh rate, better colors, better contrast, all of that. Some extra performance wouldn't hurt. But it's things like this that highlight some of the things I really like about the Steam Deck and why I decided to stick with it. It's the software. Valve software support for the Steam Deck is second to none, and I have my doubts whether companies like these other manufacturers are going to have as long of term and as high of quality of software support for this handheld gaming console, basically. And that's a really big deal. Also, I just really like that with SteamOS, I can just turn a game off, basically, and it just suspends nicely and will come back to life without issues, typically. And Windows doesn't tend to do as nice of a job on that. So anyway, I've stuck with my Steam Deck for now, although I am very interested in the space. I'd really like an OLED screen on a really high-powered one, but we'll see what happens. In other news, Galax HOF Extreme 50S PCIe Gen5 SSD has shown off speeds of up to 12.4 gigabytes per second. Now let me know if you find a use case where you really need 12.4 gigabytes per second, but it is pretty cool to see that at least being a thing and what we can push on those. And a couple last minute things, one of them being, I already did a video on this yesterday, but there have been a lot of GPU price cuts recently, which has been really good to see. I posted some of them, but there's certainly more available on my community page and talked about in a video, where we saw a lot of Amazon coupons in addition to smaller price cuts, taking down a lot of GPUs to a more reasonable price. So I'm just hoping in general that we're seeing the entire GPU market come down to the reality of where consumer demand actually is. I think this whole generation has been priced way too high. And so again, thinking back to like the 4060 that we'll see what happens if people aren't excited about that for 300, hopefully we do see some price cuts on it, maybe coming soon. Last couple of things I want to mention is that this is more just nostalgia for myself, but maybe you're interested too. I loved playing the original Metal Gear series, Metal Gear Solid series, growing up on my PlayStation consoles, and it's looking like we will be getting a Master Collection Volume 1 to release in October on PC, as well as consoles, including the Switch. I don't think that these are supposed to be any kind of major, upgrades to the game. It's more just, hey, this package will be available to replay some old classics. And also on that note, one of my absolute favorite games growing up in elementary school was Super Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo, and it's looking like it's getting a full HD remake, and I am completely here for it and very excited for this remake. Of course, this is not coming to PC in any official capacity. It will be a Switch game. But anyway, I am super happy to see some of my favorite games growing up coming out with some nice updates. Anyway, I hope you guys found all of this interesting. Definitely let me know your thoughts on the RTX 4060. Is this something you're interested in? Hey, at least it has a price cut from the 3060, but what do you feel about the price and performance? I know I'm certainly not too excited to see it. Where was that coming in? To see a new 60 class card not beat the performance of the 60 Ti class from the previous generation, if that ends up being true once full complete reviews are out, that's certainly something that just doesn't look good. Now, I hope all of you have an excellent day.